Call me crazy if you want, but I've never liked store-bought pesto.
I figured I would try this little trend that's been going around for a while. Oh, and by the way, Susie, that's absolutely crazy. Pesto. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, back in the 90s, I was in high school and I worked at McDonald's, the local one in the neighborhood. And me and a bunch of my friends worked there, and it was an alright working experience. I have a whole side story that I could tell about this, but I'm not going to go there right now. Just going to stick to this one particular part of it. Worked there for a few years. Ended up, me and like five of my friends who worked there all kind of left at the same time and got other jobs. But while I was working there, we had this guy that would come in. He was probably in his 30s somewhere. He was always kind of scruffy looking, but he was just real nice. And he would come in, and his name was Dennis. And he would come in and he would talk to us. He was usually in there either really early in the morning or really late at night. And he would come in, he would go out of his way to talk to each one of the people who worked there. And he would ask odd questions at times, like nothing that was too shady or too weird sounding. It was just questions you don't usually get there. You know, it's McDonald's. You usually get questions like, you know, how much is the cheeseburger, or can I have extra onions? You know, stuff like that. And he would ask like, you know, do you guys ever close early? And you know, do you guys, how many people do you usually have working at night? And it started to get, you know, to the point where it was like, you know, this guy really is inquiring about a lot of questions. So a couple of us ended up telling the manager, and the manager said, oh, it wasn't no big deal. He said, you know, we get questions like that sometimes. He was like, just don't worry about it. He said, but if it gets, you know, really uncomfortable, let us know. So we were like, all right, man, well, I did my job. I went to the higher authority, and that was that. So we ended up leaving and going and doing other jobs. Well, a friend of mine, this is a different friend who didn't work at the McDonald's at the time, but he was a really close friend. And, you know, again, this is a few years after we had moved to a different job. And his girlfriend, I'm not going to give any names because I don't want to go there, and you'll know why when we get to the end. But his girlfriend worked there, and, you know, we would go in sometimes because we would go and pick her up, you know, because we were a really close-knit group of friends. And we would go in and you know, eat and just hang out for maybe 20, 30 minutes till she got off and we would leave. Well, you know, we hadn't thought about, because it had been like three years, I think, since we had left, and we didn't think about the guy or really working there at all. You know, most of us had met before we worked there, like in playing baseball or in high school. And so we didn't really think about it. It just happened to be that one of our little group's girlfriend worked there. This is where the story gets uncomfortable. Um, One night, we were hanging out at my place because my place was like the hangout. And we go to, I'm shaking a little bit, sorry if the camera is moving. My friend says, hey, we got to go pick up my girlfriend in a little while. And we were hanging out, just doing our regular thing. And he got a call from the girl's mom asking him if he had heard from her, saying that she was supposed to get off work and that she hadn't gotten home yet. because she still lived with her mom, because I can't remember how old she was at the time. I don't know if she was an adult or not. I'd have to look it up. But anyway, he was like, no, he was like, I haven't heard from her yet, but I'll find out what's going on. So we drive down to the McDonald's. And the whole place was surrounded by police. Well, we tried to get out and go talk to them, and they wouldn't tell us anything. They wouldn't talk to us. They wouldn't say anything. But we knew that it was a serious situation because there were cops everywhere. And so, I'm really shaking, I'm sorry. So, we go home and we pretty much just have to wait. Not sure if anybody's ever heard of the fast food serial killer. His name was Paul Dennis Reed. I don't even like saying his name. He unalived people at 3 different fast food places here where I live in the Nashville area. And my friend's girlfriend was one of them. So when we went down there to see what was happening, it was that. Then we remembered back. A buddy of mine was like, do you remember that weird guy, Dennis? You know, they're saying this guy's name is Paul Dennis Reed. Turns out it was the same guy. So the guy that we had met during all that had unalived, I don't remember exactly how many people. It was like 10 or 11. I mean, it's all over the internet if you ever want to look it up. Again, fast food serial killer. And it just so happens to be, A, it was the guy we met, and B, it was my friend's girlfriend. And again, I'm not going to say her name, but she was a very sweet girl. Me and her weren't really close. I'm not trying to pretend like me and her were close, but we hung out a few times, and she was a really nice girl. And my friend, obviously, he was devastated. So that's about it of the story. Just figured I'd tell you something crazy.